Sorry, I clicked on the wrong thing again. My apologies. So this will be week 2, lecture 2, part 2. I'm getting there. Sorry. Every monastery was under a bishop, and was separate and distinct. And I have up there, translating the desert, and that was how the desert was translated, meaning into the wilderness, which still was approximating going into the desert. I was still approximating within Europe, especially north of the Alps, Jesus' own going into the desert before his preaching. So the monastic life was seen as preparatory. That was the whole concept. So we had these groups of monks following the rule of Saint Benedict out in the wilderness, not in the cities, outside the cities, underneath the authority of the local bishop. And if one monastery got so large, because people wanted to join it, they would have to then separate and split like an amoeba and form another one also underneath the bishop. And this is going to be important for some of the reforms coming up that I'll get to in the course of the course, so to speak. That term then on the slide, stabilitas loci, also meant that if you joined a monastery, you did so at one particular house, one particular cloister, and you were to stay there for the rest of your life. And what did you do as a monk? The Opus Dei. Now, the Opus Dei, according to the rule of St. Benedict, is not the more modern Catholic monastic group of ultra-conservative Opus Dei people. Opus Dei was praying 7 times a day and working with your hands. Very practical. A monastery was supposed to be self-contained. So you had to work, you had to clear the land to build a monastery, but yet praying was necessary. It had the development of the monastic hours 7 times a day. Pray for yourself, pray for your brothers, pray for society. Now, when I say they were separate from society, yes and no. Because if you lived in a town, most people were aware that there was a monastery out in the woods. They were seen by the people in the town, common people, as these are the elite. These are the people who are really dedicated. Thank God, because I don't want to have to live that kind of a life. But if these people are doing that, great. I'm going to support them. A little bit, I make the analogy a little bit like athletes. And that's also, going back to Paul, there's not necessarily a foreign analogy. Paul said, I've run the race, etc. Because in our society, often people partake of sports, and schools, and everything else, hobbies. But the professional sports heroes are different. We all go to their games, and somehow when our team wins, we feel that this is good for us. In some ways, a monastery was like our team. Because on the one hand, no, if you are a big supporter of the Colts, good for you. If they win, that doesn't mean anything about you. Yeah. So you go, you pay your money to go watch, and it's like this big celebration. They win, yay! If they win the Super Bowl, even better. We're the world champions. It's kind of a weird relationship between the team and its fans. And in some ways, that was a relationship between a monastery and the people in the town. These are the holy people. They're special. We'll support them because we don't want to have to live that kind of life. So let's be glad that they're doing that for us, so to speak. And we can have some kind of connection if we support them. So there was this symbiotic relationship. Now, the problem was this, as I think, stop for a second and think about it. What do we do if we have a monastic community, if let's say 20 monks or 25 monks living in a monastery out in the wilderness under their leader, an abbot, let's call it abbot, underneath the bishop, they too need the sacraments. We're talking a lot more about the sacraments later on. Only priests can celebrate the sacraments. To be a priest, you have to be ordained. The monks, by definition, were not ordained. They were monks. Now, if we go to this next slide, we will see up here the regular and the secular clergy. Because it was early on known and seen, the issue was kind of forced. Who celebrates Mass in a monastery? The bishop will have to send a priest out to the monastery to celebrate Mass. The priest will have to send someone out to the monastery to hear confessions, etc., 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 to perform extreme unction, etc., etc., etc. They couldn't go into the city because of that ideal of stabilitas loci. Once you join a monastery, you can't leave it unless you have special permission. So the bishops got tired of having to deal with this, and they issued dispensations. Now, a dispensation is a waiving of a rule. Waiving of a rule. So what they did was said, okay, we will allow one person at this monastery to be ordained. The bishop will go and ordain them, so that person can serve as the priest for that community. It worked well, but then we have a problem, because if you were a monk, I'll be talking a little bit more about this shortly in the next slide, you were part of the Ordo Monasticus, which was a legal designation distinct from being part of the clergy, the Ordo Clericus. But now we have, with this dispensation, a monk who's also a priest. That's not supposed to be. That's kind of a mixed. So we have eventually this distinction between what's called the regular clergy and the secular clergy. Now, this is a problem too for our terminology, because we think of a regular as your normal priest. Just a priest is just a regular priest. That's not what this is about here. This designation and this distinction is between priests who followed a monastic rule, a regula, and a priest who did not follow a monastic rule but was attached to a parish in the world or the saeculum. So the secular clergy was what we consider, let's say, your average regular parish priest, whereas the regular clergy were monks who had been ordained to serve their community. And this was going to be an important distinction that was going to come into a huge conflict in the High and later Middle Ages. And that's why I wanted to bring it up here.